Hello and welcome to a quick chat with the supplemental show of Guess That Record. I am your host, Jackson Reed. This is the show where we talk with up and coming artists about their new releases. In this first episode, we'll be covering the UK based band Speedvark. Prague Magazine once said about the group, catchy, clever, and fun, drawing on everything from XTC to Talking Heads to Early Stones. Their brand new single, a cover of T-Rex's Children of the Revolution, is available on streaming platforms September 30th. To talk about this and more, I'm joined by Speedvark's lead singer and guitarist, Nathan Raudnitz. How are you doing, Nathan?
I'm very well, thank you, Jackson. How are you?
I'm good. So where are we talking to you from today?
I am in Oundle, Northamptonshire in the UK.
Cool. Is that like, is it close to London,
Yeah,
you would say?
it's
Or?
about an hour outside London, yeah.
Okay, cool. I've never been to the UK, but it's like top of the list of places I would love to go one day.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Now, I think it would be great to start off if you could share with us the other members of the band and I guess the story of how Speedvark was put together.
For sure. So, the other members of the band are, well, my brothers. It's me, my brother Marcus on lap steel guitar and bass, my brother Mig on keyboards and singing, my dad, Ben Raudnitz, on guitar and singing as well, and dad's friend from school, Pedro Flatt, our drummer. So the story of Speedvark goes back a long way, back to around 1987, I believe. Dad and Pete were friends at school, and one day before a school talent show, Dad goes up to Pete and says, "Do you want to start a band?" And we're still going now. Speedvark went through a number of different forms. They did some early demos with Brian Knight as a like a three-piece trio band, and then went on in the 90s to do an album called Pigeon Pop, which I believe was released in 2001 and has just been re-released on Spotify. That was as a four-piece. And then Dad and Pete went together as a duo to do the Speedvark album from 2014. And only a couple of years ago, me and my brothers joined the band, and we've released two singles, Pressure Rising, and the brand new single out 30th of September, Children of the Revolution.
Awesome. Yeah. So the thing that I think was kind of interesting, sort of learning about the story of Speedvark, was the fact that, you know, how you and your brothers joined the band and you're all still teenagers, playing music at quite a high level already. And, it's also interesting how all three of you sort of took a liking to music because, of course, I think it would be easy for one of you to get involved in some other hobby or that sort of thing. But yeah, how did you guys all get into music?
Well, I think it's just been around since we were kids, particularly small kids. Dad and Pete have been playing together, and we grew up around them playing and mixing the Speedvark album. And so I suppose their relationship, the constant creativity of it, and the way that it always looked like such good fun. And the songs are so great. They're songs that we've heard, since we were really, really small kids, which we're now playing with them. I think that's what drew us to it, was just a real sense of fun. There was no pressure to get into music. Dad was, I think, made quite sure of that, but we all gravitated to it independently. We all started playing guitar, and then Mig started playing the keyboards. Just, I think, more kind of on a whim than anything. He thought, "Wow, that looks like fun," and is now a pretty stonking keyboard player. Yeah, that's how it came about.
Right. And so, as you were saying, you all kind of started on guitar and the others, I guess, went off on their instruments. What made you want to stay with guitar?
I love the guitar. I think it's an incredibly expressive instrument. I mean, there are very few instruments on which one can bend strings and create such expressive melodies and such different timbres. Um, it's just an instrument that I've always felt really comfortable with. I remember being really small and sitting in on Speedvark rehearsals with Dad and Pete, and asking to just plink the strings on the guitar, going through the amp, and obviously it sounded terrible, but
Mhm.
that feeling is something that just really stuck with me. And so I think all these few years later, I just really enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I'm a guitar player myself, so I think you nailed it when you were saying like how expressive it is,
Mm.
because it definitely is an expressive instrument. So now let's talk about the new single, Children of the Revolution. I think that your version of the track is very well done and faithful to the original. And I understand you're a big T-Rex fan. So what made you guys want to do this song specifically?
It's great fun. Our whole live set now is about creating energy and fun in the room. Because as we've got back to gigging, started gigging and become better at it, we've noticed the more energy we put into a room, the more energy the room gives back to us, and the better the gig will be. And so, in looking for covers to do and looking for songs to add to the set, we wanted to bring in songs which had great groove, very danceable songs, and great melodies, catchy melodies, so that people would be enjoying themselves. And Children of the Revolution, it's such a kind of party classic. It's everyone knows it as soon as it comes on. It's got a great groove. You can dance to it. You can sing along. I think that's what really drew us to it. We wanted to do it as part of our live set, um, and then there were elements of it which we began to explore just a little bit further. So we had these ideas of adding in semitonal Eastern timbres into the intro, and adding a lap steel solo and a guitar solo. And these are things which we felt we wanted to explore further, and our way of doing that was to take it into the studio.
Perfect. And what was sort of the process of recording it in the studio like?
So the process begun. It's quite interesting, actually. It's an interesting thought. We went in and decided to record guide part. So I put down a guide guitar part, and Dad put down a guide guitar part, and I did a little guide guitar solo. And we thought that they would be, guide parts, something that we could record over later on. But actually, we in those initial recordings, I think because the energy was still so raw, we hadn't heard the track over and over again. We were just going in for the first time and playing it as we felt it. The groove was just right. And so we ended up keeping those guide guitar parts, and they are now the guitar sounds which are on the record. Because Pete lives quite a long way away from us, the drum sounds on the recorded version are actually programmed drum sounds. They are
Mm.
superior drummer. But we spent quite a long time going through Pete's drum recordings from our demos in when we were rehearsing the song together, and getting the velocity of each of his strikes, and making sure that we're hitting the right part of the cymbal, which is all stuff that you can do on Superior Drummer. So Dad and I spent quite a long time sitting together, working out the intricacies of Pete's part to go through. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty well it. It's mostly single take. The vocal was originally the guide recording as well, but it was just right.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's cool. I think it's always interesting when you hear stuff like that, where like when you're hearing about how a song was made, and it was like, oh, we actually used the demo, and that ended up being the final version because
Yeah,
we just couldn't do it better than that. So yeah, that's
I
cool.
did about
Um,
15 other takes of that guitar solo, and just I couldn't get it as good. We ended up using the
right.
first one.
Awesome. Yeah. So now I'm Canadian, and obviously I'm familiar with T-Rex, being just a music fan. But the one thing I've noticed is that they were a band that never were really able to make much of an impact over here in North America,
Mm,
but obviously massive in the UK. And there's a lot of similar bands of that era, like Slade and Mott the Hoople
mm.
and Status Quo, who were huge in the UK but never really made it in North America. Now, speaking as someone from England, what impact has T-Rex had on you, and what do you think their impact on the British music scene in general is?
I think T-Rex and glam as a movement it's very much an English movement because it taps into a culture which is very much associated with the UK. Back in the late probably the late 1700s, there was a phenomenon known as dandyism, where men, usually of a sort of upper middle class background, would dress up in kind of expensive clothes and become glamorous and walk up and down London streets to show people how glamorous they were. And so, really, that was the start of the glam star because people would become famous for looking great. And so I think Bolan is really tapping into that form of self-expression, becoming this sort of glamorous icon of freedom against the system. He broke gender boundaries and he broke fashion boundaries, and he became a sort of, the wunderkind of the English music scene because he was breaking all the rules. And I think that tapped into a phenomenon in English culture, and I do wonder if that's maybe why he didn't make it so big in the US. Of course, it's a shame because the groove of the records would have appealed massively to the party scenes of the particularly mid to late 70s in the North American scene. It's a great shame that they didn't do more. For me as a person, I think along a similar line, T-Rex were a big thing in molding my understanding of what a rock star is. Um, in the early to mid 70s, there's a real push towards virtuosity. So although I am a Deep Purple fan, there are elements of the band which become a little bit kind of over virtuous. It's like they're pushing to be better and faster and stronger. Whereas with Bolan, he moved back to a sort of Elvis style, stripped down, simple songwriting, which really appeals to me. I mean, the things like Children of the Revolution, they're just a stone's throw away from something like Link Wray's The Rumble. All it is
Mm-hmm.
is a kind of a vocal with a bit of attitude and a slightly more hi hat, and there you are. You've got the song. I think that form of kind of dancey, bluesy music, I really dig that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's a very good history lesson right there. I actually wasn't aware of the dandy movement there from way back then. So that's really interesting. And it is. I mentioned the other bands like Slade and that sort of thing. I think T Rex still did better than them in North America though, because I believe it was "Bang a Gong"
Mhm.
was a top 10 hit in the U.S. So they were able to creep in there a little
Yeah.
bit. But anyways, you've got the single coming out at the end of the month. What's the plan after this? Do you guys have an album in the works or something along those lines?
The single is actually coming out in order to promote a show that we're doing on the 24th of October at the Fiddler's Elbow in Camden. We're doing a Halloween show, and we thought that it would
Mhm.
be great to get a single out on Mark's birthday on the 30th of September to celebrate his life, and in order to push this show that we're doing because we're all massive Bolan fans, and so we really wanted to do something good for us, something good for him. We you know wanted to make a bit of a splash with it. There's not more studio time yet planned, but we have just released the 25th anniversary edition of Pigeon Pop, the band's first studio album, and we're looking to play festivals in the UK and Europe next year. So if any listeners are interested in having a good
Mhm.
times band on, then do let us know. That's the plan for the near future. Yeah.
Awesome. And I was gonna ask if you had any gigs coming
Mm.
up to that you wanted to plug as well. So
Oh,
that's great. You got one soon. And keeping it on the topic of playing live to end off here, what was your first performance? And to follow up on that, what's been your most memorable gig?
good questions. My first performance personally or with Speedvark?
Yeah, yeah. Your first performance, personally, I would say. Yeah.
Gosh, um, I think it was probably in a school assembly in year 6. So I must have been 11 or 12, playing with a band with a couple of my friends, and we played the song Heathens, which was in a film called, I think it was in the film The Suicide Squad. And
Okay.
somebody had played it to me, and I'd gone, "Oh, that's quite cool." And so we formed this little band. I think we were named Anonymous. That was about the scope of the the project. But yeah, that was my first performance. There are two Speedvark performances which stick very memorably in my mind. One of them, we played a 50th birthday party, and we were going to be set up in the garden, and it had been a beautiful summer's day. In fact, a beautiful summer's week. It had been days without any sign of any rain. There's a bit of foreshadowing for you.
Yeah.
They'd set up a little gazebo in the back garden, and we had all the gear set up under it. It was going to be like Woodstock, you know. And so we got all set up, and just as we were about to play, the clouds started to converge over the garden, and the heavens opened. So it was a desperate dash to bring all the gear into the kitchen, dry everything off. We set up in the corner of the kitchen and played a 3-hour set, and it was the best set we've ever played.
There we
It
go.
was great fun. The other gig that sticks very memorably in my mind is our gig at the Bedford Esquires venue. Uh, at that gig, but it's quite far away from where our usual fans come from. I mean, lots of them are London-based or Oundle-based, where we live. And so Bedford, it's a little way out for people to get to, and so the guest list was a little bit short as it goes. But karma saved the day, because an entire Spanish exchange trip from the pilgrimage city of Galicia turned up at the door, and so the entire audience was this group of Spanish kids who absolutely loved the band. They were the most devoted fans we've ever had, and we got pictures with them all afterwards. And it was great fun. So shout out to the Galicians.
Yeah, nice. Cool. All right. Well, we have reached the end of the interview. I want to thank Nathan for taking the time to appear on behalf of Speedvark. It's great to meet you, learn a bit more about the band, and I hope you guys are able to keep it going and find some success.
Thanks very much for having me, Jackson. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just want to say it again. The new single, Children of the Revolution, is available on September 30th, wherever you stream music. And where can the people follow you guys on social media?
We're on Instagram, TikTok, and SoundCloud. I think all is at Speedvark.
Perfect. Well, yeah, go check them out. And this has been a quick chat with the supplemental show of Guess That Record. We'll see you next time.